afternoon, good evening as per your respective time zone. We'll just wait for a couple of more minutes to join few more participants. Then we will start. We'll start in next 2 minutes. We'll start in next 1 minute, guys. Perfect, guys. So let's start our session. Before we start our session, let me just quickly give you an overview about our today's webinar. So guys, in our today's webinar, we will be going to discuss about TPRM interview question and answer. So as of now, what is happening, guys, in the market, there are a lot of vacancies for TPRM audit profile. Okay. Like if you will see in India, outside India, everywhere, there is a huge demand for TPRM audits. The person who have a relevant qualification understanding of TPRM audit companies are looking for those kind of an auditors. So in this webinar, I am going to explain you, suppose when you are appearing for this interview, what is the expectations of an interviewer? What are the key critical questions which you may face during the interview? And along with those questions, I will be also explaining you the detailed answer of those questions along with some real life example and reference material. So without doing further delay, let's start our session. So guys, first, this is very common question which I have seen. People are asking during the interview, that too at the start of interview. Like for example, suppose if you are sitting for an interview, so first they'll ask you, can you please tell me what is your experience in conducting TPRA audit or vendor security risk assessment? Have you conducted any kind of such assessment previously? What was the methodology you have adopted for doing this audit for new vendor or existing vendor? So can you please tell me your overall experience regarding this domain? Correct? Because when you are appearing for an interview, first they want to assess your capability. First, they want to assess your experience with regards to the job profile. Okay. Now, how to answer this question? What approach you need to follow? So first, guys, you will be giving your brief background that, for example, myself, Sachin Hissaria, I have done couple of vendor risk assessment previously with my organization. Those vendor were pertaining to this industry. For example, if you have conducted an audit for BFSI domain vendors, then you'll explain them that I have done couple of vendor which were related to the BFSI domains. So our company have a huge clientele in the BFSI. BFSI is banking financial sector. Okay. So for them, we have conducted a vendors audit, and maybe you can also give the count if you have a count, or suppose if you have assessed the if you have conducted an audit, for example, 20, 10 vendor, 20 vendor, 50 vendor, 100 vendor, whatever, based on your experience. So you can also put that count that okay, I have conducted an audit of for this particular vendor, and this is this is the brief background about my experience for TPRA audit. Now you need to give the overview of entire TPRM process, that how that process works from a start to end. So you will be starting them explaining that, okay, suppose if I am doing a vendor audit, then first what I'll do is I'll check whether the company have established their vendor management policy procedures or not. I'll check whether they are doing the proper planning before onboarding the vendor. What is their planning methodology? At the time of vendor onboarding, whether they are doing a proper due diligence or not. Once the due diligence is conducted, once the vendor is shortlisted, whether the company have an appropriate mechanism to do a contract with the vendor. Those contracts should include the necessary clauses such as right to audit clause, reporting of an incident clause, BCPDR clause. I'll explain you this pretty much in a detail, guys. What are the things, what are the important thing that needs to be included into the contract? But as of now, we are just giving them the entire overview of TPRM process. Correct? Then after that, you will be telling that, okay, once the contract is done, once the vendors has been onboarded, we'll also check whether the company have implemented appropriate mechanism to do the monitoring of the vendor. Monitoring of the vendor has to be done based on their criticality, based on their classification, and that has to be done on a periodical basis. Then I'll also check what is their process of termination of the vendor. At the time of termination, whether the excess which is being assigned to the vendor, the data which is residing with the vendor, whether all the data has been purged, deleted, whether the accesses are revoked or not. So this is what we have done. We have just given them the overview of entire vendor management process from start to end, from the planning till the termination. Suppose if you give this type of explanation, then the interviewer will understand, okay, on a broader level, you know how the TPRM process works from a start to the end, correct? Now he may choose one of this process and he'll ask you in a detail, okay, tell me what are the things that you will be verifying while checking the contract with the vendor. Now you need to explain them one by one what are the critical things that needs to be verified when you are reviewing a contract. So for that, what I'll do is I'll quickly show you one Excel sheet, guys, which includes all the clauses which are very, very important and that needs to be verified at the time of vendor onboarding. For example, guys, I'm opening one document. So this is also applicable for your normal audit. It is not only for the TPRA audit when you are doing normal IT audit, and at that time when you are verifying the vendors related control. Okay. And in that also, when you're verifying the contract, you need to make sure that all these clauses are appropriately documented into the contract. So I have listed down those clauses here. We'll just quickly review. So first we'll give the background of that vendor. What is the name? What is the date of agreement? What is the term? Like how much period time the agreement is valid, expiry date. Then the details of activity, what vendor is doing. Now, most important clause that you need to ask first is what right to audit clause, whether right to audit clause is there in the contract or not. When you are verifying this right to audit clause, at that time you need to make sure right to audit clause includes the rights, even the regulator have a right to conduct an audit, and sometime company will also ask a right to conduct an audit of the subcontractor. Now what is a subcontractor here? For example, if you are SHN company, you have outsourced your services to TCS. Okay. Now TCS is also taking the help of EBCN company in order to provide you the services. So now EBCN company will be subcontract for SHN company. This is subcontracting, or this is also known as a fourth party. Okay, for SHN company, this is a third party and this is a fourth party. So when you are verifying the right to audit clause, you will make sure right to audit clause includes even the regulator have a right to conduct an audit, and company also have a right to conduct an audit of their subcontractor. Then they should have an access to all the data books. There has to be regular monitoring, incident reporting clause, compliance with the necessary provision, storage of data only in India. So this is your data localization clause, where you will force the vendor that, boss, if you are handling critical data on behalf of us, you please make sure that their data is stored only in India because of data localization. What are their liabilities in case of security breach? Correct. What data they can capture, process, and store. So that details has to be there. In case of any dispute, what is a dispute resolution mechanism? Correct. What are the BCP DR plan? How you will ensure the continuity? Suppose when there is a any disaster, so how you will provide us a continuity? Right to conduct audit, right to seek the information, allow regulator to audit the infrastructure. Correct. Liabilities for the performance or risk management practices. Now this is very important. Suppose if you have not implemented appropriate controls, correct? Because of that, if there is any breaches, any data loss, then what are their liabilities of the vendor? Termination clause, correct? Compliance with the regulatory requirement. If you are appointing any subcontractor, then you need to take a prior permission from us, correct? NDA clause, IPR clause, deploy the skilled resources. So these are the list of clauses which needs to be there. And I have seen, guys, this is very common question during the interview where they'll ask, when you are verifying the contract, what are the important clause that you will verify? So you should at least list down them 8 to 10 clause. I'll just repeat it again: right to audit clause, BCP DR clause, IPR clause, incident reporting, subcontracting, penalty clause, indemnity clause, then scope of service, then SLA. This is very important. Contract has to include the SLA, service level agreement, monitoring of the SLAs, how you will do the monitoring of the SLA, NDA clause, confidentiality clause, correct? So all those clause has to be there as a part of vendor contract. Okay. So when someone is asking you this, give me the, entire overview of the entire TPRM process or vendor risk assessment process. This is how you would answer. Your answer should include all this terminology: how company are doing the planning of the vendors, how they are conducting a due diligence at the time of onboarding, what are the controls they have implemented for ensuring necessary clauses are included into the contract. After onboarding, what are the controls that they have implemented for the monitoring? And once the contract is terminated, how they are ensuring that all the necessary access right has been revoked, or whatever data that vendor was handling, whether that data was purged, deleted, or handed over back to the company or not. So this is how you will give the entire overview of vendor risk assessment process, or TPRA process. I hope this is clear to everyone. If you have any query, any doubt in this question, please let me know. You can unmute and speak. Any query, any doubt, please let me know, guys. Any one of you, or just give me a confirmation so that we can move ahead. This is clear, everyone. This is clear. You can just give me confirmation like this. This is clear. Yeah. I hope I am audible, guys. Yeah. Clear. Perfect. Great. Now let's move to the next question. Okay. This is also a very common question, guys, which you may face, okay, during the interview. Now, here, what they want to understand your experience, and they also want to understand during your previous experience, have you identified any major finding? Have you have identified that? What are the actions you have recommended to a company to mitigate that finding. Okay, so what they are asking, can you walk me through a situation where you have identified a significant security risk involving a third party? I would like to understand how you approached the issue. What are the actions you took to mitigate it? Give me some example when your assessment finding led to improved control vendor management process. So now what you need to do, you need to give them at least two, three findings, like at least the example of two to three findings which you have identified during your previous review. And you need to walk them through the entire process, how you have identified, what you have identified, what are the recommendations that you have provided to the auditee, and how it resulted into the improvement of overall security postures of the company. So I'll give you a couple of examples based on my experience. You can add, based on your experience during the interview. Okay. So guys, in this particular question, what you need to do is you need to describe certain observations which are very common in the vendor risk assessment or TPRA audit. So I'll give you a couple of example here. Okay, couple of common issues which I have noted in the vendor risk assessment process. So I'll explain you. See, what happens, guys, here when we are auditing the vendors. So I would say that there are different categories of the vendor. Sometimes what happen that is vendor would be very good in terms of control. That vendor is like a high reputation vendor, very big company. For example, if you are taking a services from big MNCs, have a global presence and all, at that time you will find less observation as compare to one which is like a mid-size company, mid-size firm. Now, in case of a mid-size company, mid-size firm, I'll give you the example. For example, there are some development company who are providing you services related to the development of applications or development of the softwares. Okay. When you are conducting an audit of this kind of company, guys, you will find couple of observations. What are the common observations which I have seen? For example, in those company, you will see that even if they have implemented a DLP, their DLP solutions are not effective. So maybe you can say, okay, we were auditing the vendor where we have noted the company have implemented a DLP, but DLP was not working properly. Why? Because DLP rule sets were not configured properly to protect the PII, SPI data. So this is one, like, you can describe this finding that, okay, we have taken a walkthrough of the entire DLP solution. We have made sure that the DLP is installed in all the employees' machine who were handling the application or data on behalf of the company. Then we have further noted that the DLP rule sets was not properly configured. During the review, we noted that confidential data can be sent outside the organization because of ineffective DLP rule. One observation. Second, sometime what happened, guys, encryption. Again, this is a very common issue which I've seen. You will find that sometimes encryption is not implemented at rest or encryption in transit. Okay. So maybe you can describe this situation during the audit. We have noted when we were auditing, the vendor have not implemented the encryption at a rest, because sometime what will happen when we'll take a services from that vendor, that data would reside on their environment, on their server, on their database. So it is very important for us to ensure that the encryption is implemented. So this is again one issue. Now I'll tell you one more issue which is very rare but very critical. Sometimes what will happen, guys, I am talking about this scenario where the vendor have developed an application or software for your company. So for example, I am SHN company. I have appointed one vendor. What is the name of that vendor? The name of that vendor is TechEd, for example. Now, TechEd, what this company is doing, guys, this company is providing the services related to software development. Now, when I was doing the audit, what I have noted, whatever application that vendor have developed, the vendor were having an admin access in that application, administrative access in that application. Vendor's employee have an administrator access in that application, and the SHN company was not even aware about the same. See, for example, if you have developed an application for my company, I'll manage the user, like SHN company will decide who all can have an access, because for me, you are just a developer. And as a best practice also, you need to ensure developers should not have any access into the production environment. Here, what happened? The vendor team were having an administrative access, and company were even not aware about the same. When we have further inquired this, we noted that the company have given a justification that this vendor admin access was created at the time of implementation, because when we were implementing that application, we were needing a support from a vendor to develop the admin console to make sure that if there are any problem, those problems can be those problems can be resolved. So for that purpose, we have given them the admin access, but after implementation, they have not removed this access. If they have not removed this access, what can go wrong? Now this vendor can access your entire data, whatever you are processing. For example, if this application which is being developed by a tech ed, if that application is storing your customers PII SPI data, so indirectly the vendor have an access to this. For example, if this application is storing the sales lead, for example, if it is a sales application and they are storing the leads, so that vendor will be having an access to this. So this was very critical findings which we have given to one of the case, in one of the case, so when you are doing the audit, you also need to make sure that the application that the vendor have developed, they should not have any kind of an accesses into the company's productions environment. Once they have done the development, their accesses should be immediately revoked. Okay, so this is an example of finding, correct? Now I'll give you one more finding, which is again very common. Okay, and which is a, I have seen that in many cases, they are following this thing, and there are a gap. So, for example, what happened, guys? Generally, company, what they are doing, they are creating one group company. Okay. So for example, let me take an example of ICICI Bank. So now ICICI is a brand, correct? So I am calling this company as a group company. Now under the group company, they have a different LOBs. LOBs are what? Line of business. So for example, they have a ICICI Securities. Okay. They have a ICICI Home Finance. Okay. Then they have a ICICI Lombard. Likewise, they have a different line of business. Sometime what will happen, guys? Company will outsource some of their work to group company. For example, ICICI Securities. They have outsourced their entire IT related work to the ICICI Bank, or maybe they have outsourced some other services to the company. So I am telling you, you specifically need to check the outsourcing arrangement with the group company, with the sister concern, or with the holding or subsidiary company. When those kind of things are there, we need to ensure two things. One, there has to be a detailed agreement between both the parties. See, although they are a system concern, but they are a separate individual entity. Now, this is a separate entity. Okay. And this is a separate entity. So you need to treat them as a vendor only. Although this is a group company, but if you have outsourced some of your work to them, then treat them as a vendor. Whatever process that you are following for your normal vendor, the same process has to be followed for this vendor as well. So as an auditor, you need to check whether the agreement is there or not. Agreement includes all those clauses, whether the assessment was performed before onboarding of that vendor or not, whether the SLAs are documented or not. And one more important thing, guys, here at the time when you are entering a contract with the group companies and all, you need to consider the ALM. Do you know what is the meaning of ALM, guys? Any one of you? What is the meaning of ALM? Any one of you? It is called as a arm arm's length pricing. Correct, guys? Arm length pricing, also known as a arm's length relationship, has to be there between both the party. For example, if ICICI Bank is providing IT related services to ICICI Security, so they'll charge some amount, correct? Maybe they can charge this amount, 100 rupees per month, or they may charge 1 crore per month. Correct? Because see, since both are the sister concern, there is no as such much debate here. They'll say we are both same company, group company, we can charge anything, but this is not a right approach. The price between these two company has to be decided based on the standard market price, which is called as a arm's length price, standard market price. For example, if this IT related services, suppose if you are taking that services from outsider, maybe ABC and company, okay, maybe TechEd, then how much they'll charge? For example, they'll charge you somewhere around 10 lakh per month. So maybe your price range has to vary between 9 to 11 lakh. So likewise, company need to do the assessment of arm length pricing. And now what will happen, guys? Majority of time, you will see that it is missing. Majority of time, I am telling you, when you see that contract has been entered with the group company, generally this will lack arm length pricing assessment. Okay. So likewise, you can describe your observations and a finding to the interviewer. I have given you 2, 3 findings, very good findings. So you describe them, all the finding, how you have identified, what you have noted. Try to give the reference of the regulatory requirement. Try to put the reference of the regulatory requirement. For example, in India, if we talk about regulators like an RBI, like an SEBI, they have their own vendor risk management framework, outsourcing policies, procedures, outsourcing guideline. So try to give a reference of that when we are doing an audit, we'll always check the regulatory requirement. For example, in case of an RBI, they have issued a master direction on on IT outsourcing guidelines somewhere in the month of April 2023. So likewise, you can give a reference that while doing an audit, I'll ensure that the applicable regulatory requirements are being complied. Okay, so this is how you can answer this particular question. I hope this is clear. If you have any query, doubt, any
Yep,
query, any
Sachin
doubt,
just has a question. Just a question.
please tell me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how to identify the the third party service provider, whether he will come under RBI or a SBI? Is it a banking related or a exchange related? How to distinguish that? If we have
Yeah, yeah.
to share that
I'll tell
example.
you. Yeah. So basically, that what happens, Srinivas, that will purely depend on the type of services which your company is providing. For example, if SHN company, if SHN company is a bank, if this is an NBFC, if this is a small finance bank, payment bank, correct, credit information company. So all these companies are coming under the regulatory requirement of RBI. So RBI regulation will govern them. For example, if SHN company is insurance company, then IRDA will govern them. If SHN company is a health insurance, healthcare sector company, then maybe HIPAA will regulate. So whatever regulation that will apply to SHN company, The same regulation, okay, the same kind of regulation has to be ensured by their vendors as well. Correct? Because see, as a vendor, you are their extended arms. Correct? So accordingly, the respective regulation will apply to the vendor. Okay,
Okay, got it.
clear? Clear? Perfect. Now, Pankaj is asking, do we use any kind of tool? Yes, Pankaj, there are a lot of GRC tool available like an Archer, okay, or Risk Recon, OneTrust, those typical GRC tool which you can use for the TPRA as well or for your normal audits as well. Okay, Pankaj, this is clear, Pankaj. Any other query, any other doubt, guys, before we move ahead? Please let me know. This is clear.
Yeah. So Sachin, I have one query. Like, if an
Please.
Indian service-based company, and if
Mhm.
they are providing to support somewhat like a US-based company, like medical
Correct.
company, and
Yes.
in that medical-based company, they have the data like a financial data, health-based data.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
how this can be taken care by the Indian company? Do they need to take care of all this HIPAA, GDPR,
Correct.
all these things
Correct.
they need to consider here, and
Yes.
the Indian company needs to be certified and all these things.
I'll explain you. So whatever situation that you have told, it is called as a cross border outsourcing. Okay. For example, SHN company. Now, SHN company, for example, operating in the European country. In European country, there are requirements like a GDPR. Okay. There are requirements like a HIPAA, or there are a couple of other requirements as well, which they need to comply because they have incorporated their business or they are running their businesses in the European region. Now, SHN company have outsourced some of their work to ABCN company. ABCN company is something which is operating from India location. So for SHN company, this particular engagement will be called as a cross border outsourcing. This particular arrangement will be called as a cross border outsourcing. So before entering into this arrangement, now it is a responsibility of SHN company that they will comply with their regulatory requirements. So first thing, they'll check whether regulator will allow them for the cross-border outsourcing or not. Okay, so now here what happens? Here there are different criteria. For example, if you have outsourced some of the services, then you need to make sure that that vendor is not storing any kind of data because of data localization. Okay, and second, suppose if he is storing a data, then I have seen in some of the regulatory requirement, there is a clause that data has to be deleted within the 40, within a 24 to 48 hours. For example, for the purpose of processing and all, if you are sending a data outside the country, then it has to be deleted. Point number three. Now, SHN company will ensure that this ABCN company is complying with their their regulatory requirement, whatever is applicable in India, as well as if any regulatory requirement which is applicable to this, and if they are also dealing with same kind of data, then they need to comply. For example, here I'll give you example. If ABCN company is storing the data of European, you know, European state customer, then GDPR will automatically applicable to them, and they needed to comply with the GDPR. So likewise here, what we need to do is we need to understand the arrangement. What kind of arrangement they both the party has, what kind of data they are sharing with each other, what kind of processes they are handling, what are the applicable regulatory requirement. Based on that, whether they are ensuring the requirements are being adhered or not. Okay. So this is what you can check here. Uh, Adam, clear?
Yes, yes, sure. So as such, company, you in this example you consider like a Europe-based company, right? In this
Yes,
example,
I
you
have
mentioned.
considered. Yeah, Euro-based company, or here you have appointed a vendor who is in India. So this arrangement will be called as a cross-border outsourcing. Cross-border outsourcing.
And apart from GDPR and HIPAA, do ABC and company needs to be comply with any other certification like ISO something?
Other certification, if it is required by this company, for example, if they have mandated, okay, if their law of land have mandated that all your vendor has to be ISO certified, then it will applicable. So what happen here, it will purely depends on the regulatory requirement. What are the regulatory requirements in that country? Okay, what are the regulatory requirements which are applicable in that country? If you are also dealing with the same kind of data and all, then those requirements will also become applicable to you. And one more thing here, see, even in the contract we are mentioning this thing, that you need to comply with all the applicable regulatory requirement. See, we are writing that very clearly: compliance with the direction issued by the regulator in relation to the activity outsourced to service provider. If I have outsourced some of my services to you and my regulator have issued any kind of guideline for that activity, then please you ensure compliance with the same. So that is how we'll derive what is applicable to them. Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Scott. Very much
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, perfect. In current RBI notice, all banking URL has to be ended. How much stringent will be able to comply? This is very recent circular, JP. I think 2, 3 days back only, they have issued this circular. Okay, it is just like, previously, do you remember in year of 2017, RBI have also issued a similar circular for migrating their entire infrastructure from IPv4 to IPv6, correct? They are doing that for the purpose of standardization, for the purpose of future continuities and all, correct? So, and they have also given the timelines, correct? So, and this, since this is a regulatory requirement, GP, definitely it has to be adhered. There is no choice. There is no choice. It has to be adhered. Okay, clear, JP? This clear, guys. Can we move to the next question, please? A quick confirmation, all of you. Clear? Yeah, perfect. Now, next, very interesting question, guys. How would you build and scale third-party risk management program in rapidly growing organization? So now, this kind of question you will face, guys. Suppose if you have applied for an interview in a mid-size company, mid-size firm, or sometime in a consultancy, because when you are applying in a consultancy firm, they got an assignment to build a third party risk management program, to establish this entire program in the company, correct? So they want to understand from you that, suppose if you have given this task, how you will build that program step by step. So you need to explain them the entire process based on your experience. So let me just explain you guys how to build this third party risk management program in any organization. Okay, so do you know what is your first step? The first step here is what we need to create. We need to create the vendor inventory. This is your first point or starting point. You should know that how many vendors are there in the company. Let me just show you that how you'll create the vendor inventory and the template of the same, so that you will get a better idea that how to assess this. So for example, guys, you will be creating this document like a vendor master, which will include the name of vendor, what is the type of the vendor, which department it belongs to, what is the description of the service when you have started a contract with them, when you have ended a contract, what kind of data they are accessing, the description of data. That will help you to assess their criticality. Sometime what happen, guys, company have a very detailed parameter to assess the criticality of the vendor. I'll give you that reference as well. Okay, then who is the owner, and then what is the criticality level of that vendor, whether that is critical, high, medium, or low. So now here what will happen, guys, you need to first understand what are the method through which company will be assessing the risk categories of the vendor. See, every company will be having their own parameter. Every company will be having their own parameter for assessing the criticalities of the vendor. Okay. Sometime what will happen, guys, even like I'll just take the another question along with this only, and I'll just explain you. Sometime what will happen, guys, they'll also ask you, when you are doing the audit, have you revamped the company's third party risk scoring methodology? Can you give me any example? Can you give me any example where you have revamped their scoring methodology? Okay, and how you have done it and all. So here, guys, what I am trying to explain you, every company have their own parameter. Sometime what will happen, guys, when you are auditing a small company, they doesn't have a much parameter. They'll just categorize the vendor based on the very simple approach, very simple approach, high, medium, low. Only 2 3 parameters are there, like name of vendor and their location, then maybe their data, kind of data that they are handling. Only 2 3 parameters are there, and based on that they are assessing high, medium, low. And sometime what will happen, guys, you may use proper methodology. Let me just give you the example of vendor risk model. Maybe what are the parameters apart from 2 3 you can consider. So for example, you have defined the criterias. Data sensitivity analysis. First, I would be doing a data sensitivity analysis. What kind of system integrations that vendor is doing in order to provide that services? Are they accessing the PII SPI data or not? What is the criticalities of operations which is being handled by them? What is an impact on compliance, the process that they are handling, whether that is a regulatory requirement or not? Geographical risk, in which area they are operating. Okay, sometime based on the geographical area also the risk is getting increased. Correct. Incident history, what are the number of incident that has been occurred in the past for this vendor? What are the security certification they are possessing? Accordingly, I'm calculating the risk score. Apart from that, let me just give you one more example, guys. So you should know that when the companies are deciding the criticalities of the vendor, what are the parameters generally they consider? You should able to demonstrate those parameters to interviewer so that he understand. You know how to derive that method, how to derive the criticality. Suppose even if the company have not defined that criticality, you have a capability to build that model. You have a capability to give them the example. You have a capability to build that metrics. Then once the model is built, all the people, all the employees will follow the same. Correct. So for example, here you can see when they are doing a data sensitivity analysis, they are collecting all the information. The activity in itself is a critical or not. What information they are collecting. Correct. Whether that is material or not. Transactions to be conducted on behalf of customer is shared, received with the service provider, whether they have any subcontractor or not. How they are handling a financial transaction. Apart from that, guys, what all parameter you can add? You can also add the parameter like their financial reputation. What is the financial reputation of the vendor? Whether that vendor is financially strong or not. Nowadays, I have seen where the companies are even asking the financial statement from the vendor to ensure that the vendor is financially strong and that vendor can survive. in the upcoming upcoming years and all, just to check their stability. They're checking their financial statement, correct? So likewise you can add this particular parameters as well in your risk scoring methodology. Okay, so likewise how you will answer, first you will be telling them that okay, I'll prepare the vendor inventory. While preparing the vendor inventory, I'll make sure that company have included all this parameter. Then after preparing a vendor inventory, I'll design the vendor risk scoring mechanism. Vendor risk scoring mechanism, that how you need to score the vendor, how you need to rate the vendor. I'll design a template for that. And then this template has to be shared with all the respective department, including the procurement department. And then you would be preparing a checklist, what all controls you need to verify. Not necessary that all the vendors will go through this rigorous process. There has to be a separate process for the critical vendor. There has to be a separate process for medium or low. For medium and low, maybe I'll not follow the entire process. Maybe I'll hand over this process to the department head itself. I'll give them the 10 criteria, boss. When you are auditing this particular vendor, please make sure this 10 criteria are complied. If you will try to follow this entire process for all the vendors, then again it will create unnecessary chaos. Correct, guys? So you need to understand this process has to be followed for critical vendor. For high criticality vendor, where you are sharing confidential data or they are handling critical processes on behalf of you. So you will explain them this, that when I am designing a program, there will be a separate program for a critical vendor or separate program for a different vendor. Okay, so and then monitoring of the vendor. Once suppose this is being decided, whatever you have explained till now, this you have explained from the onboarding perspective. That onboarding has to be done thoroughly based on this assessment. This checklist has to be evaluated. Then you can add here again the reference of contract. I'll make sure that company have a standard contract terms. Generally, this is how it happens. The legal department knows that whenever they need to enter the contract, they need to include this 20 clauses. So they generally they have a standard template. So you will give a reference that okay, I'll prepare a standard template, or I'll guide the legal team whatever needs to be included into the contract, that I'll do. Then after that, I'll make sure that the vendor monitoring is happening. Now monitoring will also happen based on the criticality. If it is a critical vendor, then only company will be doing the audit for them. Like company have a 500 vendors. Company will not do the audit of all the 500 vendors. Company need to assess what is the critical vendor which we have documented here in the master itself. So from the master, they'll filter out, okay, out of 500, this 40 vendors seems critical for me. So for these 40 vendors, I'll do the audit. I'll ask them to provide the SOC to review. Okay. Then remaining vendor, 40 vendors, those are coming in the high category. So I'll send them the questionnaire. And I'll also ask them, boss, along with this questionnaire, please provide me the evidences. I want to review the evidences or as well. Okay, so this is a way of doing the monitoring. If it is a low vendor, I'll just send them the basic questionnaire. They can fill the questionnaire or they can submit it back. I am not worried about the evidences. I am just taking them the self-signed certificate from them. So based on the criticality, my monitoring process will also differ. So you will explain again that, I'll design a appropriate monitoring process. So this is your end-to-end answer, how you will build the third party risk scoring methodologies in the company. Okay, critical thing which you need to ensure while answering, step-by-step approach, what you would be following this, correct? Inventory, creation of inventory, designing a risk scoring template while designing what are the parameters that will be included, how you will ensure that this is being followed by all the department, including procurement. Design a checklist. Now, you may say Sachin, do you have any reference? Can you provide me any checklist which we can utilize? So yes, guys, I can share you some checklist. I have already uploaded those checklists on the website itself. So let me just give you a link for that. Okay, which will quickly help you to design the control mechanism in the company related to the vendor assessment process. So what you can do is you can simply go to this website, okay? And on this website, guys, there is one tab of free resources. In the free resources tab, you will find a couple of checklists, and let me assure you guys, those checklists are being prepared based on the real life examples only. So you can definitely, for example, this is their vendor risk assessment checklist, and also there is a one more TPRA checklist. Both this checklist you can use. Okay. So this is how you can design the vendor risk management processes. And I hope this is clear to everyone. Clear? This is clear, guys. Quick confirmation, please. This is clear. Guys, am I audible? This is clear. Just give me a confirmation. Let's move ahead. Yeah, perfect. Now, again, what I'm trying, whatever I was explaining you guys, correct? That the scoring mechanism, when you are explaining, give them the example. You know, mention those pointers. That while checking the parameters, I'll ensure that the parameter includes the type of data that they have an access, the access type, their geographical consideration, regulatory exposure, the criticalities and all, correct? And sometime what will happen, guys, you can also give a references where you have asked the company to add a new clauses, new requirement into the policy or procedure framework. Now, this is also very common error, I would say, or common mistake, which I have noted, that the company, whatever policy procedures mechanism that they are following, those policy procedures mechanisms are not very detailed generally, like the entire process, how I told you, correct? This is your entire process, that at the time of onboarding you will do this analysis, this is how you will select, this is how you negotiate the contract, these are the clauses that you will include at the time of onboarding, what all controls you will check. So sometime what will happen, guys, the policy procedure in itself are not very detailed. You will find that some details are missing. For example, the entire onboarding process, whatever they are following in actual, it is not being aligned with their procedure document. In a actual, they might be following a detailed one, but the same is not written in the procedure. So at that time, you can recommend them to update their procedure document as per the current practices. So that is also which you can recommend while conducting those audit. Okay. Now, next question. Again, I've seen very common this. Okay. Here they are trying to understand whether you understand, whether you can handle a situation where someone is not accepting your finding, or those findings are recurring in a nature, what action you will take. So what is the question here? How do you handle a situation where a critical vendor has a recurring security issue despite prior remediation effort? So sometime what will happen, guys, the vendors, I have done an audit in 2023-24. I have given them 2-3 findings. They are not closing the finding. Next financial year, or maybe after 2 years, when again you came for audit, again there is a same finding. So they are not taking our observations seriously. What will you do as an auditor here? So what you need to answer here is, first you will say that, boss, if it is not resolved, then I'll escalate this issue to internally. Internally means what? For example, SHN company. This company have appointed you to conduct an audit of their 20 vendors. Okay, so you will escalate this issue to SHN company and their management that boss, this finding has been open since last 2 years. The vendor have not closed the same. Then you will also do the proper escalations to the vendors senior managements. Vendors senior management, that this is a very critical finding. For example, DLP rule sets are still not effectively implemented. So I'll explain. Let me just mute, guys. Yeah. So, so for example, suppose if the DLP related issue is still not closed, then what will happen? We will say to the vendor, if DLP is not properly configured, there are high chances data may get leaked. As a vendor, you are handling very critical data for my company. If you not implement DLP properly, this can lead to the data leakages. So what you need to do, you need to highlight that risk to the vendor's leadership team, highlight that issue internally. Verify the contract, very important. Go back to the contract and check whether you can levy any penalties or not. Liabilities for the performance and risk management practices, whether they have added any clause if you are not implementing a control, or suppose if there is any loss, or if you are not following my internal policy procedures, we can levy the penalty. Go back to contract, see whether that clause is there or not. If that clause is there, show that clause to the vendor. Ask them that if you are not implementing this particular thing, then SHN company have a right to levy the penalty. Okay. Apart from this, guys, try to see the compensating control. See, as a vendor, he will try to demonstrate you the compensating control only. For DLP, he'll say, okay, we have blocked the pen drive access, external drives are not allowed, the website access are not allowed, so employee cannot upload the data. Then we have another controls like restrictive access, this and that. That data is only accessed by this one people, two people. Likewise, they'll try to demonstrate you a compensating control. You can check those as well. There is no problem in that. But this is very important, verifying the contract. And then last, which is very important, you need to put a pressure on the vendor that boss, this control I'll require. Otherwise, I'll ask SHN company, maybe they can evaluate the other vendors. And 80% of time I have seen that this will work. Because see, vendor is a client for a company. For example, SHN company. SHN company have onboarded someone as a vendor, correct? So that vendor, SHN company is like a client for that vendor. And when the client will say, if you will not comply with this requirement, if you will not follow the appropriate security measures, then what we will do is, now we are forced to move and terminate this contract from you. We'll evaluate the other vendors who has an appropriate control. Maybe we'll outsource our services to that vendor. So when this kind of statement will come from SHN company, 80% chance are there that this will work, and company will take that very seriously, and accordingly they will implement control to mitigate that security issue. Okay. So likewise, you need to explain this entire situation step by step, that, okay, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And I think this would be the best resolution, where we'll ask the company to put a pressure on a vendor to the change the service provider. Okay. Clear, guys? This is clear. Quick confirmation. This is clear. Yeah, this is clear. Guys, without your confirmation, I'll not move ahead. Yeah, perfect. Great. Now, next question, again, very common. Okay. Sometime what will happen? Interviewer will try to test when you are doing that vendor audit, whether you are solely relying on the SOC report or you will treat that SOC report as a reference document only. Okay. So what they'll ask you that if you are doing an audit, okay, at the time of an audit, when vendors submit a SOC 2 report or other audit documentation, what specific aspect that you will review? Okay. And sometimes they will tweak this question and they'll say that when you're going for an audit, and if the vendor have submitted a SOC to report or VAPT report, I think you need not to verify much control here because since they are already SOC complied. So how to handle this kind of question? Okay. So what you will say here that, okay, when I am verifying a SOC 2 report, in a SOC 2 report, first I'll verify the critical pointers. What are the critical pointers? What is the period of that SOC audit? What are the services and system that is there in the scope of this audit? Whether that is being matched with the service that vendor is providing to us. Okay. What are the observation that that is being highlighted in the report? Okay, in SOC 2 report, what are the observation? What are the CUEC? CUEC means what? The controls which needs to be implemented by the company itself. Vendor are not liable to implement those controls. So guys, if you are not aware about the SOC terminologies and all, okay, so I'll give you a reference to one video. I'll recommend you to check out that particular video. That video will help you to understand all this terminology. Like one, you know, what is the meaning of CUEC, what is the meaning of SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. So that all understanding you will get from this video. So I'll just quickly share you this link. Okay. Uh, uh, Link in your chat. Okay. So this is one thing you can check for the CUEC. Now, VAPT report. When you are verifying a VAPT report for a vendor, you need to verify a couple of criterias. What are those criterias and what are those things? Let me just explain you guys one by one. What are things that you need to verify in the VAPT report? First, you will check the date of the VAPT when it is conducted. Okay. Check the periodicity of the VAPT. Sometime what will happen, guys? The regulator may require that VAPT has to be conducted twice in a year, or maybe VA has to be conducted quarterly, or PT has to be conducted twice in a year. So that periodicity has to be uh, verified by you. You need to make sure that the VAPTs are conducted on a periodical basis. Apart from that, one more thing. Okay, one more thing which you need to check is what? You need to verify that the vendor is tracking all the issues in the VAPT report which is being highlighted. There has to be an appropriate tracking mechanism. Okay, issue tracking mechanism. Generally, what happen is that vendor need to maintain basically a tracker where they'll document the date, time when the VAP observation was identified, the time when it was closed. Company have a TAT, which is called as a timeline, that high vulnerability, high issue has to be closed within a 15 days. Medium has to be closed within a 60 days. So likewise, you will check whether the vendor has implemented those controls or not. Okay, whether the vendor have implemented those controls or not, whether the vendor have defined the timelines, whether the vendor is tracking those issues. Okay, whether the vendor is tracking those issues or not, you will check those things as a part of this particular check. So whenever you are verifying the SOC 2 report or other report, you verify all this aspect and at the end conclude your answer by saying that, okay, I'll consider the SOC 2 report or a VAPT report, but I'll not solely rely on those report. I'll also verify the controls as per our internal guidelines, our policy procedures, or our control environment. Like I'll not solely rely on the SOC 2 report. SOC 2 report or VAPT report is just a reference for me. Correct? It is just a reference document for me. But when I am conducting an audit, I'll make sure that whatever security policies, whatever regulatory requirement that needs to be adhered by service receiver, the service providers are also following the same. So I'll do my thorough assessment as well. Okay. This is how you can conclude this particular answer. Okay. I, okay. Let me just go back. Yeah. I treat SOC 2 and similar report as a trusted but not perfect source. They are critical in validating the security posture, but must be contextualized and descended and aligned with our organization's risk appetite and the nature of the engagement. This is how you will conclude your answer. Clear? This is clear, everyone. This is clear. Yeah. Perfect. Now, next. Now, again, very common. You discover that vendor's subcontractor, which is a fourth party, is storing data outside the approved geographical boundaries. What are the actions do you take? Okay, guys. So again, do you remember when we have started a discussion, I told you about a subcontracting. So first, you need to check whether the subcontracting is allowed or not. If subcontracting is allowed, whether they have taken your prior permission as per the contract, because in a contract also we are adding a clause that when you are doing a subcontracting, before subcontracting you take the permissions. Okay. And whether I have a right to conduct an audit of that subcontractor or not. Okay, so I'll give the reference of my contract clauses. All these clauses reference right to audit. Whether so when they are asking me this question, that what action will you take here where the subcontractor is storing data outside geographical boundaries. So my first answer would be that only. I'll verify a contract. In a contract, if there is a right to audit, I'll straight away initiate the audit. I'll make sure that whatever fact that is being coming, whether that fact is true or not, with the help of audit. Okay. Then second, I'll check the Data Localization Act. Okay. Data localization, whether the data localization is uh, uh, restricting them to store the data outside India or not. Correct. What is a subcontracting? This we have discussed previously as well, Pankaj. Let me just explain you again. For example, what happened if you are a SHN company? Okay, SHN company have appointed TCS for the purpose of development. So TCS is like a vendor for them. Okay. Now what TCS has done, TCS has further taken a services from ABC and company to develop this application. For example, they are taking the employees from them, or maybe they are taking some other services which are required to provide services to SHN company. So this EBC and company is a subcontractor for SHN company. Subcontractor. Okay, subcontractor is, as the name suggests, this is the contractor. This contractor has further outsourced their work to another party. So that party will be like a subcontractor. Okay, Pankaj, clear? Yeah. So, and also called as a fourth party. Also called as a fourth party. So you will give a reference of this contract, give the reference of regulatory requirement, and when you are doing an audit, verify the necessary controls. which are very important from data security perspective, data confidentiality perspective, data availability perspective. So those controls you need to verify. Clear? This is clear, everyone. This is clear. Now, what I'll do is, guys, I'll also give you a very good reference document related to your TPRA audit. So, what I've done is I have created one document, guys. Uh, if you will see this document, so I have created this document based on the standards and a regulatory requirement. For example, if I talk about ISO, so in ISO, there is a clause 15. Okay, there is a clause 15 point 1, which was there in a previous, I think, yeah, in a new ISO, the clause 5.21 or 5.22. These two clauses are there, which are governing the controls related to third party management. Again, guys, if you will see, this is the same which I have explained you during the webinar. You know what are the things that is needs to be included into the contract, how their things needs to be reviewed on a regular basis. So ISO talk in ISO, this is the reference. So when you are appearing for interview, you can also give a reference of those clause number and those regulatory requirement while answering any of the question. For example, in a first question, when when we are discussing that, give me the overview of this entire TPRM process. So here you can give a reference. Okay, let me just also give you a reference of the regulatory requirement like ISO. In ISO control 5.1 and 5.2, these two controls talks about the TPRM related control. Similarly, in PCI DSS, in HIPAA or in high trust, this is the control. For example, if I talk about PCI DSS, in PCI DSS, again, those controls are there: 12.8, 12.8.1 to 12.8.5. All these controls talks about the third party. Again, that is very similar to what we discussed. Maintaining the list of service provider, ensure that they have a written agreement, ensure that the due diligence process is carried out, ensure that their PCI DSS compliance status audit is done on an annual basis, correct? Then again, if I refer to high trust, in high trust, there is a clause 5.0.2 which talks about identification of risk related to an external parties. So you can give a reference of this. Similarly, you can also give a reference of the COBIT and NIST. Guys, see all this, standard more or less talks about same control in a different manner, in a different clause. The control objective will always remain same. Let me again showcase you. So for example, even when we are doing a SOX audit, at the time of SOX audit also, sometimes clients gives a reference, boss, we are complied with the COBIT. So in a COBIT, there is this clause number APOs 10.0.1 and APO 10.0.2, 3 and 4, which talks about the vendor management. So since we are following the same, maybe you can consider this as my demonstration to SOX section 404 ICFR internal control over financial reporting. So in SOX, again, this is there. Vendor must be selected as per the program. You know, there has to be a detailed procedures, and contract must include all those things. Again, if you want to see this, guys, what I have done, even there is a detailed, whatever I have explained you in this webinar, like detailed activity I have mentioned against with the COBIT framework. You can check these details, and you can answer that. What are the things that they'll verify while selecting the vendors, while doing a contract with the vendors and all those. Again, in a NIST, let me show you, those things are there as a part of SA4, SA9, SA12. So what I have done is I have mapped all the this your standard frameworks or controls mapping to your TPRA audit. So I hope this document will help you while interview and while doing an audit in a real life as well. Okay. So this is something which you can always give the reference while an interview. Clear? This is clear, guys. This is clear. Huh? Any other query, any other doubt? Okay. Any other query, any other doubt? Okay, let me take few more Q&A from your Google form. So whatever, this I have tried to cover in your this only in our session itself. Now whatever highlighted in a bold, let me just explain you. Use of SOC type 1, type 2 report and pen test report using TPRM. So I hope this is clear to you. I have explained you how to use the SOC report. SOC 1 is basically related to the financial control, correct? And SOC 2 is related to the IT control. So whether it is a SOC 1 or SOC 2, the point will remain same, whatever I have explained you, correct, in the previous this question. So you need to verify all these pointers. Process of scheduling a vendor via RFP and how to create it and how this work end to end. Okay, now let me answer you this question. So basically what happened, guys, whenever company wanted to appoint any vendor or any third party contractor, so first requirement will come. Requirement will come from where? Requirement will come from the user department. User department will say that, okay, I want to do this particular process, I want to do this. For this I need a vendor because we don't have a in-house capability, so we need to appoint a vendor. Then it will go to your procurement team. Okay, procurement team. Procurement team, what they'll do, they'll design the RFP document. RFP. RFP is called as a request for proposal. When you are designing the RFP document, your RFP document should also include certain details. I'll give you a very good example of RFP, guys. Whenever you want to see any RFP, I'll suggest you to check the RFP document of PSU company. Okay, PSU company, they design their RFP document too much in a detail, guys. You will understand that what are the things that needs to be included into the RFP. So any PSU RFP, if you will check, you will get an idea that what are the things that needs to be included into the RFP. Let me just check here. This is what intimation to bidder. Yeah. So this is my RFP. In this, like generally we will write like what is our requirement, what kind of expectations, what kind of eligibility criteria that vendor should meet before applying to the tender. Okay. Then how they need to submit their bid, what is the last date of submission of the bid, what are the minimum expertise that they should have, the client reference, their year of experience in providing the services, their reference to other clients, the similar services if they are providing to other. Likewise, guys, RFP document will include all this detail. Okay, and accordingly, what will happen? Whosoever is the eligible, they'll apply to the RFP. Okay, so this is not the detailed one, but what you can do, guys, just go to this type RFP LIC. Okay. Apart from LIC, even if you see other PSUs tender also, you will get an idea. And this is also called as a request for proposal, or sometime people are calling as an invitation to tender. So ITT also. So this is also one name. Okay. So for example, here, let me just open something is related to IT or not. For example, here and they want to develop the actuarial system, correct? So they are looking for someone who can develop the actuarial system for LIC company. So if you will, we will just see the table of content only for this particular document, and you will get an idea. So once the RFP is issued, then what will happen next? This will go to the like people whosoever are eligible, they will apply to RFP. Company will get the RFP. Then do you remember we have discussed about vendor onboarding process? So likewise, company will evaluate all the person who have applied for the proposal. They'll negotiate the proposal. They'll select the party, and accordingly, the contract would be entered with that party. So this is how your end-to-end process will work related to RFP. Okay, my computer is getting hanged. So what I am doing is I am just sharing this link in your chat so that you can you can verify this document, whosoever have asked me this query, okay, let me just share this link in your chat. It is working bit slow. Okay, what I'll do is I'll share you this as a part of your recordings as well. Okay. So this question, I hope this is clear. Whosoever have asked. Any other query in doubt in this, guys? Any other query?
Yeah, Sachin,
Any other
regarding
to
that,
valuation, validation to flow? Yeah, yeah. Please tell me. Please tell me. Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry, Srinivas.
regarding the documents you
Yeah.
just shared, where you mapped the
Mhm.
ISO, SOX, COVID, and all, will you
Mhm.
able to share those or upload any of you in the website where we can review those?
What I'll do is, guys, on your registered email ID, I'll share you the recording link also and all these documents. So I'll create one Google Drive. In the Google Drive, whatever I have shown you, I'll upload that and you can access those things. Okay, along with the
Okay,
recording.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. That will help. Thank
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sachin, like for vendors, non-critical vendors like coffee vendors, transport, canteen
Mm.
vendors.
Yeah.
So for them also, what kind of TPRM we do? We
No,
do
no.
the
So
TPRM for that one.
yeah, so basically what happened, Adan, as we discussed previously, when you are creating your inventory, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
inventory,
Mm-hmm.
where
Okay.
you are classifying. So whatever example that you have given, those vendor will be a low category vendor for me because I'm not sharing any kind of data with them. Maybe see in this kind of vendor, the what is the greatest risk? The physical security controls. Because if I am providing you my canteen access, correct? So as a part of this, maybe I have to given physical access to my office premises. So only those physical security controls you will verify thoroughly. If it is a low category vendor, there is a separate checklist for them. You will not apply same criteria which you are applying for your sock vendor to a canteen vendor, because
Mm-hmm.
that will depend on a scope of service. So what I have discussed earlier as well, that if it is a low category or medium category vendor, then we need to train the respective department. Boss, when you are onboarding this vendor, make sure that this controls are being complied with, and then only their onboarding has to be done. So those kind of mechanisms you can implement for low rated vendors. Okay. Okay, clear.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. Clear.
Perfect. Perfect. Great, guys. So this is your link. And now I think I have covered all of those points, guys, which are required
And
as a part of
one
this. Yeah, please.
common question, like 70 or 60% of interviewer ask, I don't
Yeah, yeah.
know, will you be able to give
Please,
power?
please,
So
please tell
they
me.
will
Feel
ask
free.
like, what are the achievements like you have done in the TPRM? So for
Yeah.
this kind of question, how can we give the answer? Some
Yeah.
suggestion if you want to give,
Yeah, yeah.
you can.
So it is very similar to what we discussed here previously, Adan.
Like,
Achievement.
yeah,
What are
one
your
of,
achievement? I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
uh,
Achievement like what? Achievement here would be when you have given them the serious, when you have highlighted very serious issues, like DLP controls are not there, maybe the vendor were having an access, encryption were not there. Or achievement would be like what, where you have revamped entire TPRM process in the company, where the company, for example, their vendor risk scoring methodology was very poor. Only two three parameters were there, but when you went for an audit, you have revamped their entire risk scoring methodology, which has provided them more granular level detail, which help them to categorize vendor properly, which help them to identify critical vendor, where you have suggested them a major upgradation in their policy procedure. Or suppose you are doing an audit, company were not having a detailed procedure, but you have developed that vendor procedure, you have given the instructions to the legal team, add this 10 clauses based on the regulatory requirement. Previously, it was not there. This is what? This is your
Yeah, yeah.
achievements only. Correct?
Got it.
So
Yes.
it is just another way of asking it, because see, when I am doing an audit for me, what would be the achievement? If I am giving you very good recommendation which help you to ensure the compliances, or which help you to improve your security posture, that is like a great achievement for me. So you can answer this question in this manner. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect, guys. Any other query, any other doubt, please let me know. Guys, one more thing, for this particular webinar, you will get the CP credit as well. Please make sure that this feedback form is filled. Okay. Once your feedback is submitted, what will happen? Team will be generating a CP certificate for you, and that CP certificate would be emailed on your registered email ID. Okay, guys. Any other question, any other doubt, please let me know. Please let me know.
There was one question asked in the chat. Will there be any similar GRC
And
questionnaire? Uh,
we'll definitely try JP and Srinivas. I'll definitely try for GRCs. Okay. Perfect, guys. Thank you so much for
Hi-
your
Hello,
yeah, please,
Sachin.
please,
Yeah.
please, please. Yeah.
So is it necessary that we should know one of the other tool for this TPRM? So it is a
Uh,
compulsion that we should have worked on any of the tool.
Now this is something which depends on the job description requirement, Ekta. Sometimes what happen is, when companies have their own GRC tool like an Archer and all, they prefer a candidate who have an experience on a tool. So here, what you can do is, for example, you are appearing for interview. An interviewer is asking, have you worked on any of the GRC tool or TPRA tool? So what you can, what is the best way to answer? For example, if you have not worked on any GRC tool, what you can tell to them is that, boss, I have not worked on any GRC tool, but I know the GRC concept. I know the risk. I know the control. See, tool is just an enabler to implement a thing. For example, if you would be having an archer, so the risk scoring methodology which I have shown you in the Excel document, that can be implemented with the Archer, or the vendor uh, 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 vendor register, that list of vendor which is being shown to you in the Excel, that will be handled via tool. So what you can tell to them, to be very frank, I don't have an experience of the tool, but I know the GRC concept. I know the GRC risk. I know the GRC control. Fundamentally, I know this. If I work 1 or 2 months on a tool, maybe I will be able to implement those control with the help of tool as well. So likewise, when you will give that answer, at least they'll get a confidence, boss. This person has a confidence that tool is just an enabler. He knows the concept. So if he'll work on that application for 1 or 2 months, maybe he will be able to handle that process on a tool as well. Tool is not a big deal, Ekta. The main thing here is what? The main thing here is risk control and the compliance that we need to ensure while auditing. Tool is just an enabler. And if you have a knowledge of tool, that always have an extra advantage. I am not denying that. But yeah, this is what you can say if someone is asking.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Clear, guys? Any other query, any other doubt? Yes, please.
New batch is going to start from tomorrow, right?
Batch, yes, yes. We have an IT and GRC audit training batch. We'll start that from tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Sachin.
Perfect, guys.
Y-
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Please,
as
please.
for SOX compliance, generally we used to see like whether it's effective or ineffective. Okay, as per manage access, like manage change, like manage operations. But coming to TPRA,
Uh-huh.
is there any solution like what will the result? What report that we used to give if the controls
Yeah.
are not much effective?
So not effective, then what happen is, again, company will be having their risk rating methodologies. where maybe you can read that observation high, medium, low, complied, not complied. Sometime what will happen? They'll give the criteria. The way it works in a normal audit, you have a criteria where you are rating each the observation, high, medium, low, based on the criticality, based on the number of instances, based on the impact. Correct? So in a TPRA audit also, Kiran, the same thing will work. For example, SHN company is appointing you to conduct a TPRA. So SHN company will give you that guidance. If there is an observation, it has to be rated in high, medium, low, or maybe complied, not complied, or maybe critical, non-critical. So they'll give you that parameter. Okay. Accordingly, you can rate the observation which you have noted during the review. Okay.
Thank you.
Clear? Perfect, guys. Okay. So what I'll do is now for this particular session's recording, I'll send you an email on your registered email ID. So access will be provided to your registered email ID, and all the materials, whatever I've shown you, I'll upload in a drive and share it to you so that you can utilize the same. That is all from my side, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and see you in some other webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.